So, Clarkonomics. Clarkonomics is usually a dreary subject. It just is. Because when something's happening out there that you need to be aware of, it's not a warning of something great happening. It's usually something not so good. So here's the story. I read the financial press constantly all through every day of my life. That's why I'm so dull. Anyway, banks of all sizes, except for the smallest banks, are heavily exposed to the troubled commercial property market. And when I read in the financial press every single day, there are properties being taken back by lenders in either foreclosures or in what are known as workouts, where they just say, here's the property. And the amount of troubled loans exceeds the reserves. I just saw a chart of this. Exceeds the reserves of the biggest banks and the regionals, the super regionals, the regionals. So many of them are so heavily exposed to the commercial market. Think about all the office buildings that are empty or very low occupancy. There's a building I go to the dentist. It's in a office complex where I go to the dentist. And it used to be so hard to find a parking space there. It was crazy. Now when I go there, I see all the vacant space in the building. I pull right up to a parking space, no problem. And this is what's known as Class A complex, very high-end office space. The office space market is hurting for certain. Everybody knows that. But you don't know the implications. So the banks don't have enough reserves for this. So what does that mean? Federal government is going to do what it does, and they're going to protect the giant monster mega banks, and then they'll pick winners and losers among everybody else. That's why the giant monster mega banks have so much market share. So what it means to you is that, as we saw a year ago with the failure of a small number of regional banks, that there was this scramble. What are we going to do about all the business owners and consumers who have more than $250,000 in the bank? Well, once that crisis passed last year, nobody did anything. The Congress, well, they don't do anything today other than give speeches. The Congress did nothing about it. The regulators have not come up with a plan. They may have secret plans, contingency plans. But the reality is you and I cannot expose ourselves this way. We cannot put our money at risk. If you're a business owner, you need to think through how you handle cash management. For example, with payroll, because what came clear a year ago is how many smaller businesses have enough employees that the cash you have to have on hand for payroll and cash flow needs for your business will exceed the $250,000. What have you done since a year ago to see that your money is safe? Have you availed yourself of a Seeders plan, what used to be called Seeders, where your money is spread out for you by the host financial institution you use, so that all the money you have for your business is spread out in multiple banks, each having $250,000 in protection, so that in the event of a bank failure, none of your money is at risk. Same rule applies to a consumer. You want to use a financial institution that has a co-op program where all the money you have on deposit, these are good problems to have an excess of $250,000. And that good problem becomes a really bad one if the bank fails. The federal government washes its hands of it and says, oh, that bank's not important enough. We're going to let that go down, and the depositors lose their excess money. It doesn't mean you need to go to one of these behemoths, one of the 4 giant monster mega banks, anything like that. It means that you have to be smart about your money. And while we're talking about this subject, if you are a consumer with a lot of money sitting in a bank, why is it there? You probably also have investment accounts with Schwab, Fidelity, or Vanguard. Your idle cash should be invested or even saved through one of these 3 institutions and not through a bank, and especially not with Chase, Citi, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, because they pay you such miserable amounts on your money. You will earn far, far more with Fidelity, Vanguard, and Schwab, which, by the way, all 3 of those, Fidelity, Vanguard, and Schwab, are now bigger than the biggest banks in the country. And why am I not worried about them? Because their business structures are different than the banks. The money you have is in many ways safer with one of the 3 of them than it is with the banks. And because from the ground up, they were all 3 built with much lower cost structures, much lower cost of doing business than it is for the behemoth banks. They can pay you much more money and be extremely profitable with your money. But the thing is, I don't want you later to be scrambling. What's going to happen to me? The bank closed and I'm going to lose all this money. I want you to know that prevention is the best cure. You cannot count on the regulators going beyond what the federal law permits, the $250,000 coverage, and coming up with some weirdo thing to protect your money. They might, but do you want to gamble on a might? I don't. So you're a saver. If you have money in a bank, that means you're risk averse. You're more conservative. You're a saver. You want that money to be safe. Do not trust what any banker tells you unless you are in a correspondent program where your money is being spread out automatically among multiple institutions, as I discussed up front. I don't want to cause panic, Krista. Mm-hmm. I want you to be prepared. Boy Scout motto, right? Be prepared.
Sure.